Hello everyone and welcome back after a very long break to the Brightworks, where I'm going to try and do a recording. I'll give a little bit of context to the reasoning for why exactly I was gone for so long. I got turbo sick. I had a cold. It was just like a regular sort of flu, and just about the second that I got over that, I ended up catching COVID. So ended up being a really, really long recovery for me, and my throat has been killing me the whole time. But I finally haven't been hacking up along nearly as much as I have recently, so I figured, why don't I go ahead and try and cast a game? And I figure I also wanted to say thank you a ton to everybody who reached out. You guys are wonderful. Asking where the videos were, asking about the live streams, all that stuff, wishing me a good recovery. It certainly wasn't like the most, life-threatening of diseases, but my throat, it was basically inoperable for the longest of time. So I meant for this particular business, it was basically impossible to record. But I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to give this a try. I'll probably be muting myself occasionally, so if you notice, that, it's to spare you the sounds of me coughing. But it is good to be back. I missed it a lot. I've gotten a chance to play a lot more Beyond No Reason, which was cool. It took this break for me to realize that I don't play as much bar as I used to because of recording, right? I watch a lot more games than I play. It was a good opportunity to actually get a chance to play with a bunch of you folks just in random lobbies across the ways. But I'm bad. I'm glad to be back. I am bad. Not what I meant to say there, but I am bad. It definitely highlighted that I had grown a little bit rusty watching the game rather than playing it. So anyways, without rambling on any further, our blue team leader here spawning with a little bit of a crown. It's going to be none other than X Factor Live. Clocking it at, what, 50-ish open skill here? Yeah, 67 open skill for the blue commander on the northern side of Rosetta here. Going to be going as a Cortex bot commander and going to be setting up quite a few of these solar panels. Leaning heavily into the solar panels, not trusting the wind. And I think that makes a lot of sense. 0 to 10 wind speed is not good for Cortex commanders. I mean, even if the wind was exceptionally high, just as a lucky break, it's still not going to be tremendous. You need 6 or greater wind in order to be efficient for core. I think this solar panel play is just a lot more efficient. Obviously, it gives you that steady energy production as well, and on a map that's as high metal as Rosetta really is, it makes a lot of sense to just go ahead and go into some of those slightly cheaper Cortex solar panels. Now, spawning on the other side of the map, some damage already here, so I'll just move this along. Spawning on the other side of the map is the red team commander. It's going to be none other than Blossom, a commander infamously well known in the community for being very good at the game and verbally one to make you well aware of it. But Blossom's going to be showing us what they've got here as the red comm on the southern side of Rosetta here. Now, already some damage. I did notice a couple of those purple ticks making it across the map right here. Going to be trying to laser apart as many metal extractors as they can. Not going to get the one here for the red commander, but it looks like they will kill a mech that was in progress for the brown comm over here. Egg roll. And going ahead and killing this con here as well. Now, I went ahead and basically picked out of all the replays that you guys have been wonderfully sending me over the couple weeks that I've been out here. I went ahead and picked one of the matches that just had the most high-level players I could find, right? So this was just as many of the top-tier dogs as I could crammed into one match because I figured, if I'm going to come back to this, I may as well come back to it in a big way. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at a top of the top, best of the best sort of match. Grunts and Pawns. Going up in, well, grunts versus pawns and ticks. Pawns and ticks is kind of an interesting composition. It's one of those weird armada compositions that works way better than it seems like it would on paper. But essentially, the ticks probe those enemy units for the flanking damage, and then the pawns can actually do way more damage than they normally would be able to just on their own. The trade-off being that it requires an insane amount of APM to micro all that. You basically have to be controlling your ticks and your pawns individually to get the maximum value. Otherwise, it sort of figures itself out because those ticks will run past the army anyways and start hitting the enemy units from behind. But it's a little bit strange, right? It's a composition that I definitely expect in the future more and more commanders with more and more APM, especially coming over from the StarCraft scene, I can imagine, are going to start experimenting with figuring out how to make that really, really efficient. Still 5 seconds left on this laser turret here. But it will come up in time to, at the very least, thwart those ticks from running by over here, or at the very least from killing these metal extractors for the Seafoam Green Commander. Doesn't stop them from running by because now they move into the backline. One of them shut down by the Seafoam Commander, the Powder Blue Commander, Why So Easy, who has just got their geothermal up and running. That's quite nice. The Green Commander, not paying attention. The tick does manage to, or rather, the tick will eventually be shut down by our Green Commander here, Chief Panda. Just a second to point out, by the way, that, like, the green, or for instance the lavender commander, the bottom of the barrel of the blue team here is 32 open skill, and the bottom here for the red team likewise also 32 open skill. So giving you some context for the skill level of the players in this game. Also noticing now that Patak is actually playing in this match. That's cool to see. Playing as the, let's see here, the tan commander right now on the back line right here as, no, sorry, on the front line as the Cortex commander in tan going up against, actually, Chief Panda. Very, very cool. Patak, one of the lead developers for Beyond Horizon. Always fun to see them in game, right? Like, you made the game, but can you play it? And it turns out, yes, indeed. The tank commander definitely well familiar with the game and its internal mechanics here. Degunning down one of those LLTs Chief Panda had just finished up. Meanwhile, beautiful rocket bot warfare going on over here. Beautiful for the yellow commander at the very least. Oh, look at that. Big old pumpkin head attached to that Armada commander. I love that everybody's starting to get their hats, their little trophies. All the best of the best. The premier tournament winners are usually, I believe it's tournament, or winning tournaments is how you obtain those little trophies. I know there's a whole bunch of them for the different tournaments and the different events and all that sort of stuff. Always cool to see commanders wearing those little hats. There's one. Autopilot with the little grunt Fight Night trophy hat mounted on top of that Cortex commander's head. Goofy looking, sure, but I think it's the kind of thing that just you know, adds a little bit of je ne sais quoi to Beyond All Reason. A little bit of flavor. All said and done, though, these are actually relatively even battle lines. Like, this is very difficult for me to determine who has a distinct advantage here in any one direction. We do have a Twin Guard finally come up and running right here, and so that'll start lasering down these rocket bots. That's quite nice whenever you're going up against rocket bots, is just to go for one of these medium or even the heavy laser towers. They do outrange the rocket bots. They don't outrange the T1 vehicle artillery pieces, though. So it's a tricky battle. Love this right here from Chisato over here, Yanami. Going to be going for just a whole bunch of rocket bots, repairing them up on the front line, which is cool as well, and then continuing to apply the pressure. And the reason this is so important is because you always have a materials disadvantage on this northern side. Loads of E-storages here, too. That's something I've noticed a lot of Armada commanders going for recently. Going for those E-storages. Well, it's not just Armada commanders, but it is especially Armada commanders with their very cheap wind turbines, especially on maps where wind turbines are relatively powerful. Those producing those E-storages can be really valuable to prevent you from stalling when you get that big influx of metal and are ready to either jump up to T2 or just produce a whole bunch of units. You can throw together, you know, 10, 20, 30 bots without stalling your energy economy, or rather without depleting completely your energy economy, just by saving up that energy from the early game. It's kind of cool, especially for geothermals too. If you're building those, wow, we're really producing a lot of them though. I thought 4 was where we were going to stop, but apparently we're going to go into 8 of these E-storages here. Okay, that's really interesting. I wonder what the plan is there for Yanami. I guess it's just, the plan is to use these rocket bots aggressively to continue pushing into Bloatier until you can't push any further, eventually eat up all the wreckages or even just the bots here until we go into T2. We do have T2 metal extractors coming up right now from a T2 con in the back line. We have T2 production from the pink commander. Not sure even how to pronounce that name, but nicely done. Oh, wow, killer run by up here. Loads and loads of tick make it into the back line. What a beautiful surround right there, killing the T2 constructor so that this T2 mechs doesn't come online. Oh, no. What a killer snipe right there from the yellow commander. Manages to find an area where they can exploit the backline here, punishing the lavender commander for not having enough LLTs, enough guards, enough light units on the, to defend the backline. And now this gigantic swarm of ticks is headed into the back to try and do what damage they can. It looks like there's defenses here. There actually isn't. Those LLTs are up and coming, but not quite finished here. Wow. Alright, Shashgren finding immense value with just the humblest of T1 Armada units. It's the tick. For 18 ticks, you get, well, 306 metal worth of 306 metal worth of 18 ticks. Going ahead and moving into the backline here. Beautiful. Build power blasted apart. The T2 constructor goes down here as well. Eventually, all of this cleaned up. 1% HP left on that constructor. Eventually, all this gets cleaned up here by the T2 production, but that's great. Shutting down all that build power right there slows down the blue commander from being able to expand forward as aggressively as I'm certain that they wanted to. T2 AGO coming up right here as well for Yanami. That's something that we've seen a lot in Chisato's 1v1 play. Reliance heavily on these constructor bots rather than going for the construction turrets. We do have some in the backlines here, so I wonder what the plan is. Maybe going to eat those with a res bot or something and then move all the production forward. It does look like we're stepping the production forward to these metal extractors, trying to keep that reinforcement bonus as powerful as possible. And with more and more of these shelling coming out to the field, though, these rocket bots are going to start losing their value. Repair command here, but I think, honestly, reclaiming these bots when they start to get low HP is going to be the move. Still trading out so efficiently here, though. It feels like tons more of these green bots have gone down here than the maroon ones. Just slightly better trades, one way or another. Somebody drawing all over my map. T2 now rolling out on the field here as well. The Fido, aka the Hound, the mortar/skirmish bot going to be making their way out to the fronts here. And as soon as those T2 artillery bots start to roll out to the field, the T1 need to be phased out. It's sort of the natural pace of the game is once you start running into those T2, it's just so inefficient to start fighting into them that you have to start swapping out your T1s for T2, no matter how you do it. Even if you pay for the T2 lab with the T1 bots, somehow, some way, you have to get those T2, or those T1 upgraded to T2 in order to compete. There's really no competition between the T1 and T2. The Hounds are just too terribly efficient, and Sheldon are even more so. They're long range, making them oppressive against the T1 forces, and they're notoriously short-ranged units. There's not a lot you can do against a big ball of Sheldon early on in the game. It's something I've talked about before. It's the fact that if you have T2 units on the field, the first T2 units you build are going to be miles more efficient than the later T2 units going up against T2 units. Pardon me, there's another mute. Luckily, I can just turn the sound off on my microphone, so I have a big old button I can push to just stop you from hearing all that, but it does mean I know that the audio cuts a little bit. Fiends burning their way across the field right here. E-storage does pop. And these Fiends don't really have an answer. Yeah, there's a big old explosion of economy in the backline right here for the yellow commander, but now there's... Oh, we even have a anti-nuke bot headed out here. That's a bit strange. Okay. I mean, I don't hate it, right? Like, building one of those anti-nuke bots and sending it to the front so that it doesn't get destroyed is kind of cool, but... just feels a little bit weird. Like, we don't usually see those killed by grunts, I feel like. Gotta take a sip of my agua fresca here. Meanwhile, the blue commander spamming our ears off right here. I think as you get higher in the OS ladder, you start to become quite a bit less shy about spamming your teammates to death with pings. 2 of the 10 or so ticks that were over here, eventually able to tuck into the safety behind the Geo, but it looks like the grunts will clean all that up. Oh. Okay. Nice micro right here from the blue comm. Manages to keep all this from chain reacting. That was very, very close right there. Very close indeed. Meanwhile, by the way, frontline is evaporating. Again, those Sheldon come out and they start to put the pressure on. Suddenly you find yourself in a really tricky situation. Ridiculous here. Jumped on by a bunch of Fiends. Boom goes the Lavender Commander, or the Purple Commander, rather. More and more Fiends moving across the map right here, being microed back and microed forward, trying to move around, micro wherever they can. A couple of res bots going down here as well, and the Purple Commander building some build power. Okay. The build power is necessary, but when there's units on your front line, I wonder if it's you know, the best move. Little Worm, going for a play. Going for a play of the game. The Cyan Commander looking for value. Where is he going to find it? There's AA available there. Oh, don't go in on the AA turret. Obviously looking for the D-gun right here. Trying to set that Commander down. Commander does touch down. D-gun is away. Boom goes the T2 Laboratory. Boom goes the 40 metal per second metal extractor. And that Commander picks up and continues moving on forward. Fighters streaming across the map to protect this thing. Oh my goodness. What a play from Little Worm here. The 48 open skills Cyan hero moving in with the Commander for the D-guns. Using that armored transport in order to pick up... Oh! Accidentally D-guns his own transport. Well, that's going to slow this Commander down quite significantly. Now the ticks are running backwards to try and kill Little Worm. Boom! Goes a gigantic portion of the Brown Commander's base. At the end of the day, that's 1,000 metal directly donated to the Brown Commander. But, of course, degunning down all these A-Solars, it only takes, yeah, definitely destroyed enough metal to pay for that Commander right there. Wow. Well, I love it. I love the incongruent play right there from the Cyan Commander, trying to make the most out of a very strange game, trying to push back against the tide of red. Sumo's marching forward here on the northern side. Cool to see. Sumo is one of those units that are just impossible to kill. There's so much HP, they're so difficult to beat unless you have T2 units to properly deal with them. Starlights or sharpshooters or any of those high alpha damage units. Or, of course, just 100 Sumos of your own works pretty good, too. It's a nice thing about Beyond All Reason. If ever you're wondering how to counter a unit, almost 100% of the time, the counter to a unit will be that unit. Only one I can think of that doesn't work for are the bombers. I have seen bombers kill bombers before, but that's a bit of a different situation. Resbot's immediately eating up that Persecutor, unfortunately. That would have been nice to resurrect right here. Instead, okay, well, we are going to resurrect the Metal Extractor. That's nice. Resbot's working hard, trying to put those mexes back on their feet here. We've got T1 laboratories for the Maroon Commander going up against T2s. This is a losing battle no matter how you slice it. We desperately need to see some sort of T2 production. And I mean, Jesus Christ, indeed. The Maroon Com greeting it out. Going for a full-blown T2 economy in the backline. It's not the worst idea. Obviously, you need that economy in order to make this all work, but I feel like after the first Aphis, you want to make this into a Cerberus, no? X-Factor. X-Factor copying Little Worm. Oh, that's a lot of AA right there. Not nearly enough, though, apparently. Okay. Whoa! Was that a self-D? A self-D on the AGO to pop the commander out of the sky. Oh my goodness, what a play right there. Yanami with the blaze. Blew up his own geothermal in order to knock the commander out of the sky. What a crazy maneuver. Man, I love watching the pros play. This is what I missed. Watching them pull off these ridiculous moves like this. Now he's going to go in and reclaim all this. Or we're going to resurrect. Oh, we are going to res. Okay, cool. Yeah, he has the Aphis already, so figures, you know, there's not much of a point in keeping that AGO around. It's only producing, you know, maybe a sixth of the economy, a sixth of the energy economy right here. Instead, he detonates it. Oh my goodness. What a play right there from the... what a play from the Maroon Commander. Escalating to no man's land warfare over here as we've got the walls and the grunts, the arbiters firing away with their rockets, all that good stuff. Just denying a gigantic swath of land right here. Persecutor cannon firing away wherever it can as well. Chief Panda in a little bit of trouble, actually. That comm's a little overexposed. There's a Persecutor cannon up and, or pardon me, a Scorpion cannon up and running now, but not going to be very good against the ticks. Boom goes the commander. All right, nicely done. Yeah, this line is now in a lot of trouble. That Scorpion turret going to be firing away here at the ticks, wasting its efforts. And this front line on the southern side is gone. I think a good old spam of units will be sufficient right here, and it looks like that is what we're headed for. Some cheeky plays from the blue team, but I gotta say, I love the moves here from the red team, too. I wonder, a part of me wonders what the move would have been here if X-Factor had managed to sneak this commander through. Wow, still going for the AGO. I thought for sure we would have upgraded to a Cerberus at this point. I wonder if the maneuver would have been to move into the backline and try and degun down those Aphis, or try and degun down the T2 laboratory. I guess you could sort of go for both. Big old bombing run right through the middle of the map, though. The air player for the blue team, Little Worm, making the most out of these heavy bombers, trying to basically just strafe down whatever they can. Yeah, big old strafing run. Takes out basically the entire pink base. Wow. The T2 lab, the build power, basically everything goes down right there. Oh, and here's the primary target. Bombs away, and the Aphis go boom. AGO was moments away from completion, but now there's nowhere near enough energy in the tank to finish this bad boy up. Yanami forced back to rebuilding from square one. Some should split off. Talking about the bombers right there, and I think I agree. I mean, in an ideal world, right, you only send the 5 or 6 or 7 or so bombers, however many it is, to kill an Aphis exactly. I think it's like 6. I think 6 bombers dropping their payload efficiently will kill an Aphis pretty consistently. I want to say that's probably right. It's probably pretty close. So much Cortex on the field right here. We're missing a lot of those really fundamental... Oh, look at that. Yeah, Yanami decides that it's no longer worth it. Hands over all the units to the pink player here who decides to pull the trigger. And it looks like the round that had been chambered right there was well big enough to break through the line, as now the entire green production center does fall. You gotta be careful, though. This push can easily peter out, and suddenly you end up in a really, really tricky situation. Looks like the resbots are moving forward, though. That's critical to making this work. These resbots, if they eat up all this material here, right? This is a T2 lab, a fusion reactor, all this stuff. Thousands and thousands of metal going right on back to the red economy. It's a huge boon right here, and it also means, of course, that the green commander is going to have a really difficult time rebuilding. If suddenly all the materials for building these fusion reactors you have to dump back in, right? You have to put nearly 3,000 metal into that wreckage just to get it back up and running. It's gonna be well worth it. I think Resbots did their damage. I would have liked to see them concentrate around this lab and fusion reactor a little bit more, but at the end of the day, they reclaimed more than enough to pay for themselves at the very least. It only takes about 2 or 3 seconds worth of reclaim from a Resbot in order to pay for its own costs, so they're very, very efficient in that regard. Looks like a little run-by has snuck through over here on the southern side as well. A couple of grunts, nothing crazy. Enough to cause problems here, though. Yeah, units forced to retreat backwards here. Brand Commander sending some fighters. No bombers or anything, though. The red team now with the advantage. That bombing run took out a tremendous amount of energy production, so the blue team has a huge E-production advantage, but... well, dependent on the reclaim at the very least, yeah. That reclaim, eating up that laboratory and that fusion reactor, all that sort of stuff, definitely helps out a lot right here. You can see those Shiva patrolling the front lines, now well up into the T3 era. As you can see, the blue commander has gone ahead and stepped up, actually past Shiva, and now is going into Karganeth, which I love to see. Karganeth underappreciated, in my opinion. They're a very, very powerful tool on the front line. They have their own inbuilt anti-air, so they clear away air forces if you just have enough of them on the front line. They do a huge amount of single target damage just because they can lock onto a target and really laser it down. They're, well, obviously all-terrain, which is a huge boon as well, just being able to effectively climb over any obstacle that stands in your way. There's a lot of advantages you get from Karganeth that I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, ignore in a lot of cases. Look at this wall, though. The Great Wall to separate the midsection here. Recognizing that section might be doomed, and so building a wall so that units are forced to go all the way the long way around. What a funny move right there from the purple commander. Ridiculous. A ridiculous move, one might even say. More Shiva headed out on the southern side. Headed into that epic late game right here, but we do have a load of Vanguard. That's cool to see. If there's one thing I love watching work hard, it's the Vanguard. They fire away a super heavy plasma projectile at extremely long distances. You can see easily one-shotting LLTs here, but capable of quite a bit more. They're a dangerously efficient unit because they can fire away from so far. They will melt down your forces before you even really realize what's going on. You can see shredding off large portions of those Sumo's HP. It only takes a couple of Vanguard to get tremendous value. They fire relatively frequently too. Yeah, they're I don't know. They're one of those units that tends to, when they come out and when they're on the field, they seem to always find really nice value. Even though we don't always see them all that often, which is a bit strange. They're a unit that can do no wrong. They feel like no matter what they're firing at, they're gonna get value one way or another. Even if they tend to overkill, they do it from so far away that there's not really a threat of, I don't know, enemy units resurging and pushing back or something. They're basically just the perfect anti-siege. Or anti-pork, I should say. The perfect siege. Missing it on the northern side here, though, is a whole bunch of Shiva have punched through. We do have those Karganeth following this up eventually as well. But it'll be the hero Shiva that managed to break this tide on the front line. Twin Guard lasering down a bunch of these rovers that are pushing forward, or rascals rather. Grunt's getting into the back line here and trying to do some damage, but the burst from the Shiva will be what takes down all the build power here for the Pink Commander and all those lovely, lovely fusion reactors. Looking great nowadays, by the way, with their little visual enhancements. They look all beautiful. Nice and sci-fi, for sure. Boom, go the fusion reactors in a beautiful chain reaction. More and more bombers coming out here as well. This time the red team well prepared. My goodness, look at how many fighters there are right there. That's 3 players worth of fight. 4 players? We have yellow, red, brown, and tan, all getting into the air here to shut down those, to shut down those bombers. That's hilarious. What a crazy investment into the air here. These bombers are going to be, well, they're going to be necessary. Those Blizzard heavy bombers, slightly less heavy than the Cortex variant. Still extremely powerful, though. I'm headed across the map right now. Oh, maybe not. It's time to go. It really is time to go. Those bombers have plenty of good targets right here. Fighters are about to discover the Aphis stack right now for the Seafoam, or the Powder Blue Commander, rather. Forgot all my colors on my little break, huh? Razorbacks holding the line over here. Oh, bombs away. Not nearly enough. Oh, T1 bombers. There we go. Finishing the mission. Boom! Go the Aphises, taking out the entire base on the southern side and opening up this line to a whole bunch of grunts pushing forward at this point. Gonna pop the E-converters, chain reacting into the build power here. Oh, maybe. There we go. Nicely done. Those bombers more than capable of continuing their assault right here. We do have one of these heavy bombers going after the Agio. Cool to see. Looks like 3 or 4 strafing runs and that bomber will be able to take that out. Hopefully we don't accidentally kill the entire contingent of bombers headed across right now. It's a race. North versus south. We do have a couple of these gunships coming out here. The Roughnecks. Very, very cool. The Roughnecks have a little plasma cannon they can fire away with. Sort of, I've heard them compared to pawns. I think they are usually compared to roughly the damage equivalent of a pawn. They seem to do quite a bit more, though, because they're basically always flanking. Here's where the real damage is done, though. Ooh, just barely that Aphis stays alive, my goodness. Build power just barely enough to keep this up and running. Ooh, we do have more bombers coming in, though. They take out the fusion reactor here, I guess, cutting their losses. Trying to make the very best of that situation right there. Okay. That's a bunch of damage. Doesn't rival the 3 or so dead bases, 4 or so dead bases up on this northern side. I'm not so sure. Razorback here, carving apart all the res bots, cleaning all this up. X Factor alive, going for a play. Always funny to watch those go ahead and do something crazy like that. Shiva getting swarmed by the ticks right here. Fusion reactors pop, and res bots are eating up all this wreckage right here. This is when your economy becomes turbocharged, and you start pumping out those T3 about as quick as you can. You have 2 choices. You can either go for a T3, or you can build up your eco. That's a cool shot right there. The Roughnecks moving in, swarming the opponent right here. Blasting down the anti-air before it even has a chance to come online. Pretty epic. Fighter's eventually going to push all this back. The Roughnecks in full retreat at this point here. Keep my eyes on this commander walking around on the left-hand side, by the way. One hero Razorback coming up. There's not a lot of heavy anti-ground defense here. We do have a Scorpion turret coming up right now. We have not a lot of metal in the bank, though. Yeah. This could be a big issue. Uh-oh. Okay. Gunships in the air. They're trying their best. Boom goes one of those fusions. Does he have enough? So much build power surrounding this. Ooh. Just barely manages to keep it alive. 25% HP at the end of that there. That hero Razorback almost managed to win this game right here by popping the Cyan base. The last bastion of defense on this southern side right here. Very, very close call. And again with the Vanguard firing away right here. Apparently handed over to the tank commander is cool to see. The yellow commander apparently with enough. Oh! Well, there we go. The blue commander in his last fleeting efforts manages to tear up all those T1E converters that the red commander was running off of. Love me the T1E converters. They've demonstrated themselves quite nicely. Really, that was the hit that took the red commander out of the game. My goodness. I'll notice these high-level players, you know, they're like the candle that burns twice as bright but half as long. They're much less resilient to the impacts of the game. This still feels like a basically neck-and-neck match. There's not, numerically anyways, a gigantic advantage one direction or another. The red team with the energy advantage, in fact, actually. The blue team with a slight metal advantage, but they've reclaimed everything they can from the front, so these armies aren't really going to get that much bigger. A resign vote is actually called right here. The Vanguard had just been shelling away at this base for the longest time, but they haven't really been firing at the critical stuff. They've been firing at the static defenses. As soon as that build power goes down, I think this looks a whole lot better. These units push forward. These Vanguard are definitely siege units. They're not really intended to be... They're not really intended for anything except that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. AGO in a little bit of trouble here. Should be. Oh, close call. Roughnecks trying their best. That's a lot of grunts moving forward right there. Razorback trying to clean it all up, but the E-converters go. And as soon as those E-converters go, there's not a lot left in the tank. Wow. Just good old-fashioned grunts taking out the yellow commander Chashkarin. And just like that, the red push peters out. The cyan forces holding the line against the push, and eventually the blue team managing to claim the victory here. My goodness. I think that really came down to a battle of the willpowers. I think these two teams battling it out, but eventually the blue team had the resolve. You can see not a single blue commander resigned from that game, no matter how much damage they took. And at the end of the day, they managed to claim the victory in this game of Beyond Our Reason. Thanks a ton for watching. If you made it all the way to the end here, I appreciate each and every one of you to the deepest, bottomest pit of my heart. It really means the world to me that each and every one of you love these videos so much. And it makes me thrilled to record them and put them out there on the internet. So I just wanted to take a second to say thank you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.